All right, everybody, welcome to How to Win with OpenGrants in 2022. My name is Sedale Turbovsky. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at OpenGrants. Super excited to have you all join on this fine day. I'm really going to focus my comments today on a few things, but mostly going to be working to really highlight the best practices of how to really leverage this platform in order to be really successful in your grant search. And I want to highlight a few of kind of the new features we have on here, as well as a few other things. So just as a real quick agenda items, we'll talk at first real quick about new features on the platform and how you can leverage those to really improve outcomes for you. We'll talk about just optimizing your experience in general. I do want to touch on certainly the grant consulting experience so that you have some ideas about what the folks on, depending on if you're a consultant or a writer, I think understanding the entirety of the ecosystem and how this functions will really be helpful for you as you're looking for grants. And then certainly we're going to end on best practices and a Q&A and kind of AMA session. So once again, thank you all for being here. That's the overview. Feel free at any point during the presentation to drop questions into the Q&A section. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this slide. And we'll get into the platform itself. So the whole idea of the OpenGrants platform is to set some standards as well as organize the grant funding ecosystem. Some of you in attendance might be working for a nonprofit, some of you might be grant consultants, and some of you might be at a startup. And then there's everything in between, government. We have all kinds of folks who really benefit from this non-dilutive capital. And this capital resource grant funding is super unique, as many of you know, because it doesn't require repayment. It's non-dilutive, so it's massively useful for tackling really challenging problems, de-risking technology, and also working on impact-related and really altruistic missions. So it's this vital capital resource, and for so long it's been, very bureaucratic, hard to navigate, et cetera. And our vision with OpenGrants is really to empower you to have access to these important resources as you're working on your important projects. So a couple of the things that we are launching and have started to roll out. One is searchless grant discovery, and really what that means is that yes, you can get onto OpenGrants for free and you can search through our database of grant funding, and that's super awesome. But the other really cool thing is that when you create your account and you set up a profile, it's now informing our search engine and our capabilities to be able to really provide you curated lists of grants. And very soon that will actually live within the platform. For the time being, it will be delivered via email to the account that you registered, the email address that you registered with. So we're super excited to be rolling that out. And that kind of takes me to my first point about the OpenGrants platform. And that is that if you want to be really successful on this platform, you're going to want to create a profile for your organization. And I want to really specify that that could be you if you're just an individual who's working on something, but it could be your company. It could be the project that you're working on. So say you're trying to fund charging stations for a downtown area, then you might create an organization that really represents that project so that we can start curating those grant opportunities for you. And so if you set up that profile, you're going to see here, I'm not going to take you through the whole kind of account sign up process. That's pretty quick and easy. But once you have created the account, you get walked through a flow that shows you basically gives you the opportunity to set up an organization. And so your organization might look a little bit like this. Basically, here in this section, you're going to input information about what you are up to. So a 3 to 5 paragraph executive summary, and this doesn't really show the full text of what's been inputted here, but a 3 to 5 paragraph kind of executive summary of what you have or what you're working on is really important. And then over here, you'd put in info. If you have multiple locations, you might list those out, but basically where you're headquartered. All of this information really helps the platform start to filter and match grants to you. So some of these things that you might not fill out, depending on if you have, so this is a profile for both a grant writer and a grant seeker. So some of this information you might not put in, but you can see that, on the other side of the table, the grant writers and consultants are identifying the kind of roles they like to play, what their typical hourly rate is, all this other information. So you're going to want to input all that information so that we can start curating these great lists. The other really exciting feature of these profiles is that you can add other members of your team. So, you can create an account. Say you're working at a startup and you have 3 or 4 people who maybe are working on the grant projects. You could add them all to that account. That way you can all participate and be under that same umbrella. So you want to take advantage of that, add members. It doesn't cost you anything to add those members to your account. So you can go ahead and do that. And that will help you start to connect with grant funding, but it will also help you really get matched to those opportunities. The other really cool thing on the platform is on the project management side, and this is important, especially for public agencies and other groups. So we have a couple of features here that allow you to look at any projects that you have going on. There's none here now, but this is where you can manage all your projects. And so you can look at what's been billed. If you're a consultant, you can look at your current billings and all of that information here, and you can just stay up to date. And we do provide archival services. So if you happen to work at a public agency, we can archive for public record purposes all of your communications with the consultant, all those other additional kind of records keeping that you might need. So that's what we provide there. So that's another new feature that's really exciting. And in this area, you would also find like records of hours worked and other things. So you can all that information is here in the projects area. Also coming soon, we will have basically the opportunity to look through generated RFPs. So if people are working on specific projects and you are a consultant, you can view those here. So, but kind of going back to your grant search process. So the first thing I just wanted to highlight, of course, is that ability to get those curated lists of grants based on your profile. The other thing that I want to note is that we do have this really cool opportunity for you to be able to connect with consultants. So as you're looking at grant funding, you might also find it really useful to connect with consultants in that space, and they can help you do deeper kind of strategic work, developing what we would refer to as a grant funding strategy. And this is really vital and important. And we actually did a kind of a deeper dive on this in another webinar late last year. But it is really important and can be super helpful for you because there are funding opportunities that simply aren't listed. There's funding opportunities that aren't necessarily available online anywhere. And then there's also planned funding opportunities that just haven't been announced. And consultants can really help you, provide you with some deeper intelligence in that space. So highly encourage you to hop into the Talent Finder area. And you can use all these filters here on the side to find the folks that you are, that are going to be really relevant for you. And so you can use kind of rough filters to start. So say you're in the energy space maybe, and you're looking for grant writing. These are kind of rough filters to get you a first cut at a list of relevant consultants. The neat thing about this is you can reach out to them. It doesn't cost you anything to message them, have a discussion. And if it's a really good fit, they can develop a proposal for you and they can send it to you and you can get off to the races. But if you find yourself in the platform, one of the things that we have heard from our users is that sometimes the search just isn't super intuitive. And a lot of that has to do with a mismatch between how like normal people talk about funding and how the government talks about funding. And so the consultants can really help you drill down into like specific things that you're trying to accomplish, and they can give you some input and insights into maybe better words to use or specific agencies to look at for the funding opportunities. So as you get started on your funding search, the two things that you want to really make sure you've done is one, go ahead and create and fill out a full profile for your organization on the platform and make sure to include all that information about where you're located and what you're working on. And that will be a good first step in trying to like really start to crystallize what information you want to provide and how you want to search for that. And then the other opportunity is to jump into here, look at these consultants that we've curated for you and start to have some discussions. And this will really help drive your process forward, and it helps the ecosystem in general, because a lot of times these consultants, they have a lot of deep understanding of not only what's out there and how to be successful, but they know what's coming. They have relationships with the agencies, they have relationships with the funders. So anyone from like the Gates Foundation, like private foundations and philanthropies, all the way through government. Having a relationship already existing there is really useful, because you start to understand, oh yeah, we know that they're going to try to like get a bunch more funding for cancer research, and in the next few months they're going to be releasing these big grants. And so that can allow you to, instead of being reactive to funding opportunities as they get published, you can be proactive and you can build a relationship up front. You can start to really educate yourself about what the agency is going to look for, and you don't have to like try to rush to crush a grant application in 30 days or what have you. You can be proactive and start your work early and get together all the paperwork you need to provide a really good funding opportunity response. So that's a huge part of why we provide this organization for these consultants. The other cool thing that we've put in place on the consulting side is we do manage all of the 1099s and everything else. So whether you be government or otherwise, the procurement is really easily solved. So from your standpoint as potentially like a buyer of services, we just act as OpenGrants. And so we manage all of the tax and procurement and compliance aspects for both parties. So both consultants and grant seekers can get that benefit from the platform, where the procurement is streamlined and smoothed out and the tax management happens on our side of the platform. So we're really excited about all of that. I want to pop back over to the dashboard and just give a quick rundown of what's here and why it's here. So we have a variety of things. If you've gone ahead and saved grants, you'll see upcoming deadlines here. So you can get a quick rundown on all the upcoming deadlines, and you can kind of keep that straight in your head. If you click here, you can look at the new grants that were added. So this will just update based on your login. So if you've logged in, and since I last logged in, there was 272 new opportunities that were surfaced, and 20 new grant writers joined the marketplace, and 90 new users signed up. So that's kind of exciting. You do definitely want to keep your profile up to date, as it mentions there, just in order to receive like the latest and most accurate curated opportunities for your organization. So if you change tactics or you decide to focus on a new group population, new geography, new technology, definitely make those updates to your profile so that we can curate those grant funding opportunities for you. You can see here, there's a list of organizations. You can belong to multiple organizations. So this functions kind of like LinkedIn, right? So maybe you work at a for-profit company, and then you also have you're also really involved with a nonprofit as an advisor, or maybe you run a nonprofit alongside your job, or maybe maybe you belong to multiple organizations. Definitely feel free to add organization profiles that are relevant. If you're looking for grants for multiple things, add multiple organizations for that. And that will allow us to curate not only one list, but several lists for you, so that you can get those matches and stay up to date on that grant funding information. The other thing that I want to note, we do have forthcoming, basically you'll be able to opt into to teaming lists. And some of you may be familiar with this, that the government often puts out, the government in particular, foundations do this a lot less. The government often puts out funding opportunities. They ask for like a cross-functional team made up of multiple stakeholders. And we're super excited to start rolling out features to kind of make suggestions and matches about what that team looks like and how that team might collaborate. And so if you do opt into it, your personal profile can kind of serve as the tip of the spear for making those matches. So you definitely want to update your personal profile as well. And once again, kind of similar to the structure that like the organization style of like LinkedIn, right? Where you have your personal profile and you might belong to several organizations, but you want to use that personal profile as that kind of tip of the spear. So obviously here you have notes. So if you've taken notes on certain funding opportunities, those will all show here. And then here you have a tab to manage your projects, log hours, review invoices, and then we'll update news here so that you can get the latest educational webinars and other opportunities to network and connect with the ecosystem. So that's what happens on the dashboard. I do want to highlight here in the saved grants area, a couple things happen. You'll be able to not only have these surfaced and keep track of them, but you can also export. So if you put together a large list of saved grants, you can export that information and really go, share that with your team, go deeper on the opportunity itself. And I'll just go ahead and I'll pop over here the grant finder and give a little more information about the grants themselves. So each individual grant has a bunch of opportunities here, and I do want to highlight a couple things. One is you have your overview. Read through this. You can get some more information about what's going on and what's required, the kind of work that's supposed to be done in relation to the grant. If you have some information or you want to see things provided differently, definitely let us know. Shoot us a message. Get in touch with us. We're very happy to continue to listen to our users and make adjustments and improvements to the platform as needed. You can add your notes here. You can click out and view the original, so you can go see where that grant lives online. And that can be super useful for a lot of reasons, but the big one is obviously, ultimately, if you're going to apply for it, there may be like documentation and other things that you're going to want to download. One of the things that we will have forthcoming is we will start matching consultants right here in the platform to the grant funding opportunity itself. So we're super excited to be rolling that out in the near future, where not only will you have your grant matches here in the platform, but in one consolidated experience, you'll also see the suggested consultants who are qualified and have experience with that particular program. So a couple of things you can do with this is you can save it to your saved grants list. You can also copy a link to this and share it with your colleagues, and they'll be able to view it, and they can obviously sign up for free and then engage with that funding opportunity as well. So excited about the functionality here, and really what this serves to do, as I mentioned earlier, is you create a grant funding strategy. It'll allow you to be a lot more proactive, and we do encourage you to, as you're preparing for your funding search over the year, maybe have that initial discussion with a grant consultant who can help you understand forthcoming and active applications and what you might want to be applying for, and then hop in here in the platform and start curating a list. So save grants to your profile, curate that list, start to track amendments and addendums and other things that happen, so that you have like a focused group of funding opportunities to go after. And we suggest, and our partners suggest, that you start with a big funnel, cast kind of a wide net, and then as you read through and start to really understand like each particular opportunity, narrow it down to 4 or 5 that that you can be super competitive for. So that's another thing that we'll have in the future, is helping you understand a bit more about that competitiveness with some of the quantitative tools that we'll be rolling out. But super excited to start connecting grant consultants with the actual opportunities. The other thing that you'll note here is that over here in the Power Search, we do encourage you to, if you're working on a particular opportunity and you want to create a specific query for that. So maybe you know exactly how much funding you're looking for, or the agency that you want to target, or the geographic region that you want to target. You can create a whole filter, like a rough filter here on the side in the Power Search, and then you can save that, and then you can just run it over and over again. You can also export the results of any search as a CSV on our Pro plan. So we're excited for that, and I'm going to go dive in a bit more to the grant funder or the grant consultant workflow, and how that relates to like how you can be really successful using this platform. But before I do that, I definitely want to just reach out and ask how y'all are doing today. I know the beginning of the year has been a bit bumpy for some and not so much for others, but definitely would love to hear how y'all are feeling. So if you could respond to the poll, that'd be great. Love to get your reactions there. But just in summary, as a grant seeker, the kind of like 3 best practices that I want to highlight are: 1, when you sign up, definitely create a profile for your company or organization or project. Create an organization profile, and then update that, make sure it's up to date, and that we can use that to match you to grant funding. Also reach out to the consultants that are in your space and just have conversations. Even if you're not like hiring them, have conversations. They're a wealth of information. They're happy to engage. These are folks that we've curated for a couple of very specific reasons, but one of them is their willingness to say no to projects. And the reason that's super important is it's almost harder in this space of grant funding to know what to not go after. There's always so many opportunities, and frequently, if you just search, like say you search small business grant funding, you'd find the SBIR program and maybe a few other programs, and they're not all a good fit for you. Just I think that's maybe obvious, but they're not all a good fit. And the grant consultants themselves have a good, deep understanding of like where to go and what direction to take. And so especially if you've never done this before, it can be a wealth of information, and just having those initial discussions and building those relationships can also be super beneficial. We have incredible folks who've worked with everyone from FEMA to foundations across the spectrum of nonprofit and kind of private philanthropy into government grant funding. And so we are very proud of the group of writers that we do have and consultants that we have, and we're really excited to connect them to you and just start to allow you to build relationships with them. So please do reach out. So those are the two big kind of takeaways on in terms of best practices. If you are going out there and just starting your funding search and you want to be really successful, that's one of the best ways to start, is by connecting with those folks and creating that profile so you can get those curated lists of grants. And I see, the reactions to the poll are coming in. Lots of people stoked for knowledge, cautiously optimistic, hoping to be inspired, and a little tired. All sounds super relevant. And then 4% said other. So that's also interesting. So I'll just go ahead and share that with y'all. But really excited to have y'all here, and I hope that this is providing some good knowledge. A quick reminder to definitely pop into the Q&A and answer questions. We'll leave some time at the end to really get into those. So I want to just talk about some best practices in general in terms of engaging with these consultants, and maybe set some expectations as well. So if you pop into the Talent Finder, you'll see that, and we'll just use this profile here as an example. You'll see like there's quite a bit of information about them, but this is just kind of a snapshot. So if you think there's generally a fit there, go ahead and reach out to them and just have a discussion. There's no they're not gonna follow up and spam you with a bunch of information or anything crazy like that. This is a highly curated professional network of experts. So don't feel like you're gonna get a bunch of salesy follow-up emails from them or anything like that. Reach out, connect, and just note that a couple things. So one, they've done a job of just dropping in basic an overview of what they do and what they've done. They've also done the work of popping in and telling you kind of generally what the hourly rate is. None of that is set in stone. These are professional consultants. They want to do business. They want to work on exciting projects, and you are in need of, probably in need of some of their assistance. So be open, start that conversation. And through the OpenGrants platform, we provide a couple of really exciting things. One of the things that we provide to all of our consultants, if they wish to opt into it, is a variety of benefits, including healthcare. They can access payroll services and a variety of other kind of support services to make sure their business is robust and running smoothly. So we're very excited to provide that. If you are a consultant listening, these are all things you can opt into. If you don't know how to, or you haven't gotten emails about it, just reach out to our support team, which, by the way, our amazing customer success team, they're right here in the corner. They're always ready to answer your questions. So feel free to reach out to them at any time. But on the consultant side, we help them do everything from streamlined billing to get connected to really great, folks who are looking for their services. So a couple of things to note. Please, if you can dive into it, just reach out with a sort of concise request of, hey, we're looking for this kind of thing. We'd love to have a discussion. just ping them, get started in that discussion, and they can really help you like narrow down exactly what might be a really good fit for you. They'll also potentially send you a proposal. And if you choose to accept it, then y'all can work together. One of the nice things about the platform itself is that you're covered under NDA. So both parties are covered under NDA per the terms of service that you agreed to when you signed up and created an account. We also automate all of the billing on the platform. So they have the opportunity to record the hours that they've worked on your project. They send that over to you, and you have the opportunity to review those hours. If you have any misgivings or issues with the hours submitted, you can submit a dispute. And then we have a process for handling all of that. But hopefully everything's all good. And then that billing just processes every 2 weeks, and you're able to continue on and really streamline that working relationship. Once again, we do have all of the tools in place to manage the hours, archival services, procurement services. If you're a government or working in a large enterprise and you need like vendor setup and tax forms and all those other things, we manage that all through the platform. So we make it really simple and easy, provide OpenGrants as that kind of single point of engagement on that front. So really excited about the features here, and I just want to encourage you to reach out to these folks because they've gone through a vetting process, they've submitted an application, and our team has carefully vetted these individuals so that we know that they're providing really high quality information and support to you. So I just want to close out kind of that discussion by saying that the services we provide here are to standardize and streamline access to an incredible ecosystem of funding. It's about $2 trillion in kind of grant funding and aid that moves around the world every year. And we are very excited to note that over this coming year, we will be expanding our services outside of the United States to the international community. So your support in starting to engage in this ecosystem and drive these discussions forward is hugely beneficial. And we highly encourage you that as you're moving through this process and working with consultants, or if you are a consultant and you see ways for us to improve, definitely reach out via live chat, get in touch with us, let us know how we continue to build a real community around this, because that's really our vision. And you'll see emails from us on occasion that highlight some of that vision. You'll see that we're running a WeFunder campaign, and we're doing a variety of things to really democratize access to this space. And so, one of the things that even our consultants on the platform have access to is to receive compensation in the form of grant, actual like equity tokens in the company. And so we really are driving towards an equitable and accessible future for everyone here, and working to build a real community around this. So definitely reach out in that spirit. Please engage and chat with these folks who are here to help. They're here to build and work on some of the world's most important work. So I see a bunch of stuff in the Q&A, so I'm going to pop in there for a minute and just see if I can run down some of these questions, and then I'll get into a bit of like some of the best practices and other things that are pretty relevant. So let me go ahead and pull the Q&A up, and I'll just start at the top here. So I have a question that says, do you provide a grant proposal format for us to fill out regarding grant requests? It would be nice if you did. So this is a really great question, and unfortunately the short answer is that because there's so much variety in grant funding, we don't have like a single grant proposal format that works for everything yet. That's certainly something that we want to work on in the future, but not something that's here yet. So what our consultants can do though frequently is, like, if they know the specific program that you're working on or the specific grant application you're providing, they frequently do have templates that you can leverage. So that's a really a great benefit of working with those folks, is that they've already done this multiple times. So they definitely, typically they'll have some templates that you can access. So thank you for that question. Another question, it looks, do any consultants work on receiving a percentage of grants obtained as their consulting fee? I think it's one question that got broken into two here. So the short answer is there are some consultants that do that. However, generally speaking, that's not a best practice, and it's not something that we encourage on our platform for a variety of reasons, but mostly because, one, we want consultants to get paid up front for the work that they're doing. We want them to get paid for their work. And in many cases, especially with federal grants, that's actually like a violation of the terms and conditions of the agreement itself. So we stay pretty far away from that, but I'm not saying it's not done. I'm just saying it's not really done on our platform. Another question, do grant writers help with the strategy for post-awarding of a grant, outcomes reporting, financials aligned with government reporting, et cetera? This is a great question. So this is one of the reasons that we are very excited and really bullish on just the community that we're building here. Grant writers do, and it's one of the reasons I've tried to throw out the word grant consultant a bit more. Grant consultants really can help with the full spectrum of this endeavor of like engaging with grant funding. Grant funding typically requires some kind of politicking and relationship building up front to be very successful. So if you want to have really great success with your funding, you typically kind of want to engage and build a relationship ahead of time. And then there's the actual application process and all of that. And then as this user brought up, after an award, there's sometimes a lot of reporting and other things that are related to the post-award, including sometimes you have to like author a full sort of like report afterwards. And so yes, consultants frequently help with that. If you go into the talent finder, you'll actually see that there are like grant management kind of skills and other filters that you can apply. And definitely talk with a consultant that you're engaging with and ask them if they do this. But many of them do. But it is certainly a specific, it's a specific skill set for sure. So you do want to like have that discussion with them. But one of the beautiful things of how we set this up is we made it very open-ended. We're not trying to restrict anybody in terms of the services they provide. We're certainly just trying to connect you with really high quality folks. And frequently, if they don't do it, like the person who's maybe helping you with the application, they might know people. Frequently, they will know people who do. And once again, just not to like, belabor the point, but the whole idea of building community here and making sure that everyone within the ecosystem starts to feel more connected and knows who's who, that's a big part of this. So definitely ask about that. Someone asked if the grants listed in the program are only those, are the grants listed in this program only those who have chosen to participate or pulled from across the internet? Great question. So effectively, we've done our best to curate grants from across the United States. So we have, about 99.9% coverage of the federal government. We have pretty good coverage of state governments and local governments, and we are currently working on some relationships with foundations and other groups. So we collect data in a variety of ways. First and foremost is by pulling open data sets from around the internet. We do have some scrapers that run. We also have human beings who input information, and then we do have partners who choose to use our platform to publish grant funding opportunities. So there's a lot of different data sources, frankly, and effectively you can access the platform and feel confident that you're getting a pretty good look, that you're getting a really good look at the federal government, a very solid look at states. And I will, note that, foundations, because they don't really have any public data requirements, we don't have as robust of a data set there, but we do have a very good data set on foundations as well. So that's what we do. Another question, is there a reference list for recommended keywording in our profiles? There is not. That's a really great bit of feedback, though. I'd say, if you haven't written an executive summary or like a rundown of your company ever, definitely do that first. But generally speaking, if you're explaining what you're doing, then that's really great. And that's what we need in those profiles. I wouldn't say that there's any specific kind of keywords that you need to include or not include. But if you can just explain in concise language what you're doing, that's a really great start, and that'll typically yield really good results. If you over time are feeling like the lists coming to you are not accurate for whatever reason, there is a feedback loop that we have that will help improve that. But there's also our customer success team. You can reach out to them and see, but definitely just give it a try. Fill out the profile, get everything set up, and then if you get information back that you feel isn't super accurate, you can go from there. We actually hold a provisional patent on a pretty unique approach to taking that information and translating it and generating those matches. So ideally, it just functions really well. But if you feel like it's not functioning well, definitely reach out and we can help you understand and maybe help us understand as well how to tweak it and make it better. A question, how does our platform compare to instrumental? We actually have a full write-up on this. I'll ask Kate or Cody to just throw that in the chat. We have a post about it. Yeah, Instrumental is a great platform. And there's certainly some big differences between us and them. I think that one of the biggest ones is that there's this really great curated network of experts that we can help you get connected with and engage with. Does OpenGrants offer techniques on how to be successful in getting the grant? Great question. We do have a variety of posts. We host webinars and the like. However, I think the best resource you're going to find on the platform is these experts that we've curated for you. These are folks who have been massively successful in receiving grant funding. They know the platforms, the programs in and out, and they are, they're here to really like optimize this experience. And generally speaking, one of the challenges with offering a technique to be more successful in getting a grant is that there's no standardization yet across the spectrum of funders, right? So, the Gates Foundation requires something different than the federal government. And, within the federal government, even within the same funding agency, there are different requirements. So what works in one place does not always work in another place. So once again, it's really important to go to the source of like very specific information about the specific program that you're going after. And that's what you have here in form of the experts that we've curated for you. Great question. How does OpenGrants generate income? This is an awesome question and something, a really important point for the consultants in particular, but also for all of our users to note, is that we operate in two ways. One is we operate a marketplace. So when you pay one of these consultants, we have a 20% take of that payment that goes to that consultant. So that's one way we generate income. The other way is we actually provide data in aggregate. So we're not providing any kind of personal information, but we provide data in aggregate to governments and other groups who are looking to improve their grant funding processes. And so that's something that we're always actively working on, is how do we make grant funding more transparent, traceable, equitable, and efficient. We want to ensure that this important resource is available to people all around the world. And ultimately, our vision is to empower people around the world with access to grant funding resources. And how we do that is by organizing this ecosystem, setting standards for this ecosystem, and helping all of the participants within this ecosystem understand what's broken, what's not working, what is working well, and how they can replicate that in other places. So that's how we work. Another great question, do you have a projected grant no-flow release calendar available through the system? We do not have that yet. It's something that we'd like to roll out very soon in the near future, but it is not something that we have yet. And a great shout out from one of our users who just said, McKinsey has been super helpful for me to get pointed in the right direction, and I plan on working with her in the future. Definitely one of our rock stars, and really appreciate that. And another just great shout out, totally awesome support for consultants. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. I actually spent a good portion of my career as a consultant in this space, and I understand the challenges and what that looks like on that side of the table. So we are, we've purpose-built this platform for grant seekers and consultants in totality to build a really what is ideally an inclusive and supportive ecosystem that ensures that this funding ecosystem has some standardization, has some support, and has some connectivity that can help drive efficiencies and really support transformational work around the world. Are there any grant consultants who have prices by the project or by percentage instead of just an hourly rate? Yes, the hourly rate is really just to set some expectations around cost. As you engage with the consultant, they may say, hey, this is, this is a package deal or what have you, and they can certainly set that up. So the hourly rate is just a jumping off point, as I mentioned, and that's important, I think, for everyone to understand, is that the hourly rate is just a jumping off point. It's something that they have, but it is not necessarily something that they are wedded to. I think I answered this question already in terms of, do consultants work on the basis of receiving a percentage of grant funds? And that's a no from us. Does OpenGrants collect a fee for the matches? We do not currently collect a fee for the matches. As we scale and grow, we may introduce some kind of paywall for some of those, but there will always be a pretty robust feature set with at least a limited amount of free matches. How is OpenGrants funded, and would you consider your platform to be in direct competition with grantwatch.com? So OpenGrants is a venture-backed startup. We are funded by some incredible investors, including Boost VC, Globivest, A100X, and a group of others. They're all excellent. I know I'm forgetting some people, so apologies for any of our investors who are on the call. But we're venture-backed. We are an early stage startup, so we're about 3 years old. And would you consider yourself to be in direct competition with GrantWatch, is the other part of the question. I think GrantWatch has built a really good platform. They have a lot of data there. I think certainly they would be considered like direct competition, I suppose. This is a huge space, though. I think there's a lot of room. And as I may have mentioned earlier, this space hasn't really had a lot of standardization or work done around it. And so I think that the more that we collaborate with folks like GrantWatch, we collaborate with Candid a bit, we collaborate with a lot of people in this space, because there's just so much work to be done. Do you have students or people looking to build their portfolio as grant writers? We actually work with an incredible partner on this front. So the folks at learngrantwriting.com, and maybe someone on the team can throw that link in, they are our partner in terms of like the grant professionals education space. And we make sure that the folks on our platform are all effectively sort of what you might consider like a senior consultant, or someone with a lot of experience who can provide a really high quality of service. And we do have a few mentoring programs that we've been piloting, and we'll probably have a more formal announcement about that later in the year, about how that's going to be structured. But in terms of education, generally speaking, we want folks to start with learngrantwriting.org to get really built out in terms of a skill set. So if they're starting at zero, that's where we want them to go. And then we are experimenting with a few different mentoring programs and other opportunities to pair the senior consultants on the platform with junior folks who are looking to get more experience and really break into the space. How do we know how successful a grant consultant is? To know their percentage or number of proposals that were successful? It's a great question. I want to point out two things about this. One is many of them will put that number on their profile, and that's a fine number to think about. However, I will say that a lot of consultants, especially the ones within our platform, have a 70 or 80 or 90% or 99.9% success rate. And the reason for that is not so much that they are like the best in the business at writing grants, although many of them are. But the other like key skill, and I just want to delineate between the skills here. This is not, they are all top notch, but the key skill that they have is saying no to projects that they know are not going to be successful. And I think this is super important for people to understand, that there's a good amount of work you can do upfront to really vet the feasibility of a certain proposal and a certain opportunity. And that's what that grant funding strategy is all about. And so any consultant who is worth their salt will have a really high success rate, because they know how to say no to projects that are going to be failures. And that's just a skill that they learn. And so it's something that we curate for highly. And so you'll see that most folks on our platform have that really high success rate. And so while that number is really important, I would say if that number is really high, it's really just indicative of their ability to say no to projects that are going to fail. Another great question: do you have grants for people needing assistance with education? yes, there's all kinds of grants in that space. I would, you want to get more specific. And I tell people this all the time. It's like, all right, are you trying to learn to be a machinist or are you trying to like improve your school? Education is a big space, but yeah, there's a lot of grant funding for education. Can you search by eligibility? We are a corporation, but are also looking for opportunities available for our city partners. Yes, 100% you can search for eligibility or search by eligibility. We have some filters in place for that. And certainly just reach out to our customer success team if you don't see that information. Another great question, is grant funding data available on the platform for users to see? I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I'm going to take a stab at it. And then if you want to just maybe reword the question or just ask it again in a different way. But in terms of grant funding data, we have a lot of information on available grant funding. And maybe you're looking for like the history of the program, which we don't have available on the platform, but we do have. So there's a lot of different data around grant funding, and we do have a lot of that. Some of it is available. As I mentioned, we provide aggregate data and reporting to governments and other consultancies. And that's actually something that we provide through our API and through some of our enterprise engagements. So if you pop onto the website, and maybe the team can drop that link into the chat as well, there's a section for enterprise on our website. Definitely pop in there. You can submit a request to find out more about the kind of data that we can provide. A lot of it we provide via APIs. So you can kind of build your own custom solution to look at grant funding and those dynamics. Are there listed grants from private organizations or private individuals? Do you vet grant opportunities, or is that up to us? There are listed grants from private organizations and private individuals. We do have, I didn't mean to downplay it so much earlier. We have a really good, robust data set of information around foundations and private philanthropy, et cetera. We don't vet opportunities ourselves. That's data that we collect, and then it's up to you and the consultant to vet the opportunity itself. But we do have that data, so that's something that we have. Are there grants for robotics research and development? Yes, loads of grants for that. SBIR is the one that everyone knows. DoD is making a big surge of funding these days, and they love that space as well. Lots of R&D grant funding through the federal government, and then there's also foundations that fund those activities. So definitely jump in. I would, for you in particular, I'd search for SBIR and then robotics. SBIR and robotics, and then you will be off to the races. I'd love to hear more about how grant consultants can network with grant seekers on the platform. This is a great question. So right now, what we do is encourage you as a grant consultant to create a very thorough profile, and then we will match you to folks who are looking for that. We do have forthcoming here, as I mentioned, in the next few weeks, we'll be rolling out a feature that allows you as the consultant to go browse through what kind of services people are looking for. So they'll be able to post basically RFPs, a request for proposal, to our consultant network. Also, please do engage with our team. If you subscribe to our newsletters and subscribe to our platform as a consultant, you will get weekly or bi-weekly emails about opportunities that are tailored to you, basically. So if you've told us that you work with FEMA grants, for example, and we have a bunch of requests coming in on the FEMA side, we'll send out those emails. And shortly, as I mentioned, all of this will be moving into the platform, so we're excited about that. Are there grants available for private land development, specifically for housing? This is a tricky one. I'll just say that generally speaking, yes, in terms of sort of economic development and HUD, there's a ton of funding for this generally. However, you want to get really specific. So, if you're a private land developer, you might tap into one of those federal programs, but there's a lot to navigate there, frankly. It's actually one of those programs. There's grant funding. If you want to really get into this, there's grant funding to help you learn about how to access grant funding for private development of housing. So HUD has grants to help you learn about their grant programs. So it is a big pot of federal money. There's a lot of funding. You can go get grant funding to learn about their grant programs. That's how complicated it is. Congratulations on OpenGrants and your years of work in the field. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been a journey, and we're excited to keep building this. Can I touch briefly again on how projects work? Can grants be searched specifically for each project? Yeah. So basically, if you want to create a profile on the platform, and I'll pop over here again. I think what you're asking about is how do we set up a profile, like a bunch of different profiles. So if you go to manage organizations off of your dashboard, you'll be able to, you can see that you have one organization here. And so right now, this profile will receive grants that are related to this organization in particular. And basically you have the opportunity, as you can see up in the top here, to add an organization. So effectively what you do, say you're working on a bunch of different projects around the country. Say you have like 5 different projects. You have solar panels, you have electric vehicle, EV, maybe you're an EV company, so you might have solar panels, electric vehicle charging in Arizona, and you might have a different kind of like fast charging in Utah. If you wanted to create an organization for each of those, you could do that, and then you would get lists that would match those with grants that would match those. So that's how you do that. The other aspect of the projects that I'll just bring up, since you brought it up, but I feel like maybe I answered it properly, but just in case you were asking about projects, specifically projects in our platform just refers to your relationship with a consultant, and you can manage that under your projects tab. So you can see what was billed, how much has been billed. You can track like what they proposed to you, all those things. You can review the deliverables they said they would send in, all that stuff. So that's how you do that. Great questions on the international side. I might have missed this, but is it for the USA only? Right now it is. We are expanding and working to support the international community. And that's one of our goals for this year in 2022. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on what we can do to make that happen. But we do have a roadmap in place. And if you reach out to us or just shoot us your email, we'll be sure to send you a note once we get there. And I see burning through the questions here. I'm a grant consultant in Canada. Should I sign up? 100%. Please sign up. Once we open up more markets outside of the United States, we will send updates. Are there grants for small Black female businesses? Yes, there's all kinds of grant funding, and it really takes just getting more specific, right? So instead of generally funding like a small Black female business, you'll see that there are grants for businesses that are helping revitalize Main Street or put in EV charging, or like it's more about you can be more competitive, and there's like set-asides federally to award more money to populations that might have been underserved or that are underserved. And so if you are a woman-owned business, or you say you're minority-owned business, and then you apply for like specifically to get a grant for a Main Street business, then you can be more competitive. So that's kind of how that works, right? And instead of the other way around of like, hey, we're a small Black female business, you're not going to find a grant for that specifically necessarily. You might, but you'll find a lot of grants where you can actually be more competitive by being a small Black female business, applying for funding to do something specific. Do we have consultants specialized with STEM education and nonprofit museums? Yes, on STEM education, you might have to search and see what's up with the nonprofit museums. I am not sure about that. Thoughts on crowdfunding versus grants? Grants are great, non-dilutive capital. Crowdfunding, obviously, you can do equity crowdfunding or otherwise. We've used WeFunder. I'm happy to kind of talk about this offline, frankly. I'm not sure it's super relevant to this, other than to say that grant funding is non-dilutive and doesn't require any repayment, and crowdfunding often requires something in return for the money. So I will share that. But if you do have questions specifically about our experience around WeFunder or crowdfunding, then definitely let us know. Yeah, really happy. I know we're kind of drawing to a close here, so I want to throw out just another quick poll here. Let me pull this up, and then I'll just go through some closing thoughts as we get to the end here. So I definitely want to hear from y'all like what's your biggest challenge with fundraising right now? Would love to know a bit about that. So if you could respond to the poll, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch tacks here a little bit and pull up just another slide here and just mention a few things. So as y'all are responding to that poll, I just want to share a couple of things. We really are very much committed to the idea of building a community and an ecosystem around this. And I think that is definitely, like, for me, it's one of our biggest differentiators. And in order to do that, we're doing a few things very different than you'll see a lot of companies doing. And one of them is raising community capital. So we've opened up our fundraising effort so that all of you can be owners in OpenGrants as well. And it's one of the things we're very excited about. So to the extent that it's interesting for you, you can visit wefunder.com/OpenGrants. For as little as $100, you can become an investor in OpenGrants and an owner. And part of that experience is to just really join our community on maybe a more deeper and kind of engaged level. There's a Discord server that we run for all of our investor community. We're really excited to make that open to anyone who invests. And you can get access to beta features ahead of launch. You can get access to a lot of interesting surveys, as well as access other members of our investor community. So we're very excited about that. Also, just want to note, the big takeaways here in best practices. One, definitely create your profile on the platform. It's free. Make sure it's complete so that we can send you matches to grants. Another, please reach out to the consultants, connect with them, chat with them. And then if as you are getting into a relationship with them, be sure to manage that relationship online in the platform. That way we can provide all the protections we provide to both sides of the table. We provide NDAs, we manage the taxes, we manage security around the payments, all those things. So be sure to keep that relationship on the platform so that we can provide all the benefits that we want to both parties. So really excited to have you all here. Thank you all for tuning in and sticking with us for this presentation. If I didn't get to your questions, I would love to definitely reach out, email us, feel free to get in touch. You can email us at info@opengrants.io, and then I'll go ahead and share the results of the poll. It sounds like the big thing that people are challenged with right now is finding the right grant opportunity. And I think that has, that's really the core of what we're hoping to solve. So please, as you're creating your profile and you're getting these curated lists, reach out, let us know how we can make it better. As we get input from you, we will continue to improve the product and the platform and the service in general. And really, you are helping us build what we see as a public good in the future of grant funding. So definitely get involved. Feel free to get involved at whatever level you'd like to. If you want to be an investor, if you just want to be a consultant, if you want to do all of those things, we'd love to have you involved. So thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And with that, I'll go ahead and close us out. And yeah, thank you all. We'll see you next time.